Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, you're too much, thank you. Welcome to the very first edition of Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. My name is Chris Hall. I'm joined by Gabriella Ruiz. Gabriella, say what's up.
Hello, everybody.
I said say what's up.
What's up?
All right, there we go. Welcome to the show. This is our pilot episode, so we are really excited to get this thing off the ground. And speaking of pilots and getting things off the ground, we thought it was appropriate that our very first guest be Shane Engelauf, our Chief Warrant Officer here at the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Shane.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
We're doing fantastic. We are really, really excited to have you here because I know you've got a lot of great background, a lot of cool things that we can share with our audience and talk a little bit about our aviation unit.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Awesome. We are too. So just getting started here, can you talk to us a little bit about what the aviation unit does? I know there's 4 pillars.
Yeah, we have a unique aviation division here in Charlotte County, and it's really driven from the top. The sheriff really wanted our aviation division to be a unique entity. So we do a lot more than just standard law enforcement. We'll do, our regular jobs, searching for people or criminals or vehicle pursuits. But in addition to that, we also do all the mosquito control for Charlotte County. So day and night, which is 2 different operations. And we also we cover a piece of the Gulf for the Coast Guard. So we do hoist rescue or longline rescue out in the Gulf. And we're a unique area where we're just outside of St. Pete and not quite in Miami. So that covers our little piece of paradise here and making sure our swimmers are safe and our boaters are safe. So we're able to do that, which is really unique for us. And then also we have aerial firefighting capabilities. We have a UH-1 helicopters, one of the biggest in the surrounding areas. So we're able to really help out forestry and our local fire department with wildland firefighting.
Wow.
And it's really unique to us, and it's a lot of fun. Our UH-1s were actually Vietnam-era helicopters. One of them actually flew in Vietnam. So it's a really unique program that we were able to put together, and the sheriff really drove that a lot.
That's so cool. I'm sure a lot of training goes into that too weekly.
A ton of training. We do a lot of training. I love it. It's continuation training, I call it. Every flight is a training flight.
So you keep saying we, but how many people is we? How many people are in this unit?
Well, we have 2 full-time TFOs. We have 2 full-time pilots right now. We're looking for a 3rd. And then we have up to 7 part-time TFOs that are doing everything from investigations to roll patrol to canine to courts. And so we'll bring these deputies in and train them in the techniques used in aviation, whether that's searching or fueling the helicopter or search and rescue. So you're right. There's a ton of training that goes on into it, and it's year long. The pilots do really specific stuff. We'll go and do what we call crash and bangs.
Which emphasis on there's no crash. There's no crash.
No crash. But we call them crash
disclaimer.
and bangs because it's where we turn off the engine and auto-rotate the helicopter. And so we stay proficient in all these emergency procedures that could possibly happen to us. Turn the hydraulics off. The engine comes off. The tail rotor stops working. All these things that could possibly happen to you, we need to stay proficient in it so the crews are safe when they're flying with us. And our guys we're protected on the ground. We're part of support services. So that's our job, is to support the road patrol and the canine guys. And that's where we live. We live to support those guys doing those jobs.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's the best job in the world.
So the podcast name is Patrolling in Paradise, and we really wanted to build, kind of let the listeners know why we feel like this is paradise. And I feel like the aviation unit kind of has a unique perspective, a unique view of that county and what that paradise looks like. Can you share anything?
Absolutely. I mean, from the air, this area is beautiful. I mean, from the Keys to the coast and the crystal clear water, and then going into the woods, Babcock Ranch and the Webb. It's almost like it's 3 different counties. You have the beach out in Englewood, you have Port Charlotte, then you have Punta Gorda. So you have all these different areas that are very unique. And they're all cut off by bridges, which makes helicopters and emergencies very important. You gotta get from one bridge to the other, just like we did when Ian hit.
Right.
It became incredibly important to have that asset that could reach all of our little counties, that make up Charlotte County. So and so we get a unique job. We really get to see this place from the harbor to the out in the Gulf and it's a beautiful place to live, and it's a great place to work.
It's
That's
almost
awesome.
like living a dream.
Exactly.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. Don't make fun of me too much. I started out, I grew up in Southern California, if you can believe it or not. I made it all the way to Florida. So
Wow.
I love it here in Florida. I'm not leaving. So I started out in Southern California. I got my private pilot airplane license when I was 19 years old. And right about that same time, I graduated college. Right about that same time, 2001, the Twin Towers were hit. So that kind of focused most of the rest of my life. I immediately went into the service after that. I joined the U.S. Army. And then right after that, I was selected for flight school. So I became an Army Warrant Officer. And I flew OH-58D Kiowa Warrior helicopters, probably the best helicopter ever. Great cruise. It's basically you and 3 of your friends and 2 helicopters, and they give you a 50 caliber machine gun and some rockets and a Hellfire, and they go find bad guys. Tell us where they're at.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, there they go now.
So I got to deploy with them. I was with the 10th Mountain Division out of Fort Drum, New York, and I was also with the 3rd ID out of Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia. So I got to deploy with them to Iraq in 2006 in Baghdad as part of Task Force Light Horse, and then again as part of Task Force Light Horse or Marin Air when I went to Jalalabad, Afghanistan. So yeah, I had a pretty active military time.
Yeah, it sounds like
I'd
it.
say so.
Spent about 15 months in Baghdad and then about 13 months in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, just with the Army. I mean, I carried jerry cans of gasoline up to outposts because they were running out of gasoline in their generators. So anything you could do to further the mission, to help the guys on the ground complete the mission, that was our job, and we found a way to do it. I always laughed and told people I flew the oldest thing in the Army inventory, and it was. I mean, it was the oldest helicopter. It was our most archaic equipment, but the pilots and the crews are what made it what it was. We would get out there and get after it and make sure the guys on the ground got what they needed and the protection they deserved.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What a resume, huh? Okay, all right. We're doing a show here, guys. Calm down. Okay, thank you.
I'm certainly appreciative of your service. Thank you.
Yes, very
It
much.
was- it
Very
was
much.
My pleasure. And then after that, I got to work for the State Department, which was also a really unique experience. The State Department has a program called International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Bureau, and so it's a kind of a piece of the Department of Defense and Department of Justice. And they work together to do counter narcotics in other parts of the world. So I flew UH-1s, conducting counter narcotics in Afghanistan, and as well as Russian Mi-17 helicopters. I became a captain in that in Ukraine, and went back to Afghanistan, taught them how to do counter narcotics for their law enforcement division. So it was a unique experience, and that Army training kind of got me able to do stuff like that and go see different things and provide support to our allies and things like that, which was a lot of fun.
Like Chris said, what a resume.
Yeah, it was fun. Timing in life is everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you started at age 19, you said. You got your first pilot's license. Is that correct?
Yep. I flew airplanes at 19, and funny story, my mom I was working, and I never balanced my checkbook. My mom worked for a bank, and she said something to the effect of, how come you don't balance your checkbook? You probably have a lot of money in there. I thought, I don't know, I guess so.
Sure, Ma.
I know I'm not spending any more than I make, so I thought I was okay. And she goes, well, you got all this money. Why don't you go to flight school? Your grandfather was a pilot in World War II.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll give that a shot. And so I gave it a shot. I kind of liked it. And then this helicopter thing and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan kind of guided it that way.
Fast forward to today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what led you, I guess, from the military to Charlotte County Sheriff's Office? Like, what brought you to us?
Well, my bachelor's degree is in criminal justice. So I always had kind of a love for law enforcement and the mission that we all do here. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind. I was working for a police department in California when the Twin Towers fell, and then I switched gears to go into the military. So it was always kind of in the back of my mind that was a job that I wanted to do. And, when I got out of the service, it was kind of a natural fit. I had this skill set of flying helicopters, and I really liked supporting, the guys and girls on the ground that were doing the operations like law enforcement and firefighting and and all these things. So it gave me the opportunity to get back into that kind of service-oriented line of work. And I saw an ad in an online subscription about Charlotte County needing a helicopter pilot. And I thought, well, let's see if they want to hire me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the best decisions the agency's ever made.
It's been great for me too. I've enjoyed it every day of this. I mean, it's a lot of fun to come to work and work with people like yourself and canine operators and SWAT guys and detectives. You know, it's a lot of fun to work with this huge array of people that you would never meet in any other particular job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun.
All right. So the aviation unit, going back to your time here, and you said it's a lot of fun and you've done a lot of work here, but is there anything that stands out to you as far as one particular mission or something that you've done here with us that the public would like to hear about, something that you think would kind of spark their interest?
We've had a lot of great missions with Charlotte County being Hurricane Ian, or we've had some rescues out in the web, and John Batista and Joe Mills and Casey Kohler, and I know I'm forgetting a bunch more, but these guys all did great, amazing work, all Lifesaver Awards and all sorts of things like that. So it's hard to pick one, but I would probably say the one that most people would recognize if they Googled it or something like that was the car fire in Fort Myers.
Right.
It was over 2,500 cars, and it was really unique. I mean, I had people from London calling me and asking me how we fought that fire and what we did and what were the lessons learned.
This was the rental car lot at the
Yes.
airport, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess what happened was the catalytic converter was hot. The car caught the grass on fire underneath that single vehicle.
Sure.
And then it spread like a standard brush fire, except it was vehicles. So, yeah, it's a very unique scenario that nobody had run across before. So as this thing started to spread, it would jump from car to car to car. And they were using bulldozers and other things to kind of try and push these vehicles out of the way. Oh, by the way, the Hertz rental car people wanted to save as many vehicles as they could. So if I wasn't flying the helicopter, I wanted to be the Hertz rental car guy because they were doing like Dukes of Hazzard across the swells to try and get these vehicles out of there.
Them Duke boys are at it again.
Oh my God, it was amazing. They were getting the cars out of there, and then we were dropping water on the cars and trying to focus this wildfire that was just vehicles. So we got to the point where we were dropping water on vehicles, and now the vehicles were exploding because it was like I was back in Baghdad, you know? Vehicles are exploding because the water we're dropping is mixing with the batteries, and now they explode. So
Oh my goodness.
working with, everybody was down there. Charlotte County, Cape Coral, Lee County, all the fire departments were down there. And so everybody was coming together trying to figure out how to contain this thing. And it was pretty amazing. So we have a couple videos that we put online and stuff like that. And it kind of showed how this thing was spreading. And it spread similar to a brush fire, but it was acting much more difficult than a brush fire. It wasn't going out like a brush fire. So
You had a bird's eye view of the whole thing.
the whole thing, yeah. So we had our fuelers out there, we had our ground crew out there, and it was an all-day event, and it ended up being an all-night event. We're one of the few agencies in the country that do nighttime or night vision firefighting. So after the sun goes down, we stay on scene. Usually the temperature cools down, the humidity comes up, and it's a lot easier to kind of put the fire to bed at that point. So if we can stay on after dark and kill the fire, that's what we try and do. But it's just not a thing a lot of people do. Night vision is a difficult time to fly.
Now I've seen some of the photos that, or maybe they were still shots taken off the video, but it's the helicopter and you're piloting, and it's just a plume of black, thick smoke.
It was.
What was your visibility like?
So we try and stay out of the smoke because there's a lot of bad stuff in that smoke.
I guess that's smart.
Yeah, you try.
Good
Sometimes
idea.
you can't, but we try and stay out of it. But yeah, it's just the visibility is typically pretty terrible on all the fires. That smoke is everywhere. And we don't have doors on, and even if you do, if you had air conditioning or something, it's just going to suck all that smoke into the cockpit anyway. So
Right.
Oof.
you might as well just take the doors off and enjoy the view.
So
Nice.
you've done the firefighting. You mentioned the mosquito control stuff, but you also mentioned that Longline Rescue. And I remember that you had one, and I remember a video that I've seen of you actually. You weren't piloting; you were on the long line.
Yeah. because I got a really good pilot named John Batista.
There you go. Hats off to John.
Shout out to John.
But this was, walk me through what was that situation? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, most of everything we do rescue-wise is due to the water that we're around everywhere. So whether it be Hurricane Ian cutting everybody off, ended up being in near Babcock Ranch. So what happened was there was a woman out there that had got kind of stranded between a couple of bodies of water because it had just rained. The vehicle had stalled out, and she was having a medical emergency. It looked like maybe she was having a stroke or something like that. So fire department couldn't get to her. The engines couldn't get to her, so she couldn't get the medical services that she needed. So the quickest and most efficient way of getting her out of there was to put a person on a line. It's called a Longline. It's a rescue technique used all over the world. And so that person is dropped into where they need to be. The person that needs to be rescued is hooked up into what we call a rescue suit. So you're kind of tightly in this little like straitjacket looking thing, pulled up, and then you're just dropped right where medical personnel are. So for short distances, instead of a hoist bringing you up into a helicopter and then going to a medical facility, this just takes you up off the ground and puts you down where you need to be.
So you just
Nice.
stay hanging from that long line.
Yep. 50-foot long line. Yep.
50 feet.
So
Wow.
My.
it takes a lot of pilot skill. John put me exactly where I needed to be, and we hooked up the lady that was having the emergency, and we were able to just move over and put us down by the fire department. So it's a technique that works well in the water. Most of our training is done out in the Gulf in the water, because if you can effect a rescue out there, then land is no problem.
Right.
And everything we do, every rescue we've ever done has somehow been affected by water, whether it's the rains or hurricanes or the Gulf or swimming. It seems like, we're in the land of
Paradise.
paradise, so there's a lot of water around here.
Yeah, lots of water around here. and you guys and you and your team, you've done such a great job with maintaining. You've got multiple helicopters now. How many birds do we have?
We have 4 total. We have 2 what we call A-Stars and 2 UH-1 helicopters. So our A-Stars are typically kind of our catch-all. From patrol to rescue to firefighting. It can kind of do everything. And then our UH-1s are our heavy lift asset. So 350 gallons of water is almost 3,500 pounds of water or mosquito control repellent. And so that's our heavy lift component, and that's also where our hoist is. So when we're talking about hoisting somebody up on a cable, putting them in the helicopter, out of the Gulf and taking them to a medical facility, or multiple victims, 2, 3, 4 people off of a boat, that's the helicopter we're using. And, we have the belly tank on it, so we're able to use that dual purpose for mosquito control and for firefighting. So 350 gallons coming out of like little bomblet doors when the doors open up. It really does the damage to the fire. It really can knock down and focus the fire where the firefighters can get in front of it, or the dozers for forestry can get around it. We have a really unique environment here in Charlotte County. Our homes come right up to the edge of our forest. And so when those fires get going, they're at your doorstep before you know it.
Right.
So the helicopter can cut those fire lines very quickly and get to places where the dozers can't get right away. And Charlotte County Fire and Chief Fair, they have our telephone number, and they say, hey, we need help, with this piece of this fire is kind of getting to a place where we think a helicopter would be the most appropriate use of our tools. And he calls me up, and we go help him out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think people, just your average Joe, even like myself, really takes into account the strategy behind stuff like that. I mean, I was talking with members of your unit before this, and just hearing them talk about the weight of the water and how that affects flight time, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's once you get into this line of work, every piece of equipment you put on that helicopter, every ounce of gas you put on, every gallon of water, it all equates to weight. That helicopter can only lift so much. So you're constantly doing these mental gymnastics of, okay, if I pick up 5 people, my fuel needs to be down to 50% or whatever it needs to be. So you're constantly doing these mental gymnastics on.
Or if he's just picking up me, same measurement.
Yeah, it's constant. I'll say that. It's going back to my Army days. The helicopter was overweight and underpowered. So I learned a lot of really good lessons on how to conserve power and how to make things work. And I've been extraordinarily fortunate in my career to work with some just amazing pilots, some legends in the community. And the things they would teach me and show me how to get the most out of your helicopter, to get the most power out of whatever operation you're doing. I've been really fortunate to kind of see that kind of stuff, and I brought it here, and we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
When you're talking with the guys, we're constantly talking about ways to conserve power and to, get more out of the equipment.
Yeah, that knowledge in your tool belt is just fascinating.
It takes a long time to get there. It's one of those things where you're probably not employable for about 10 years after you get your pilot's license because of the length of time it takes. Because you think of like a 747 pilot, he's getting in the aircraft and he's flying 12 hours to Europe. Well, my flight might be half an hour. So a half an hour flight and another half an hour. It takes a long time to get the experience needed to do all these different things.
That does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, it just takes a long time.
Yep. So the aviation unit does incredible work, and you just mentioned some of the legends in the industry that you've been able to fly with. I just want to make sure you understand that you are now one of those legends here in Charlotte County.
Not yet.
I think
I know the legends.
Yeah, I disagree. I think you are, and I know I can speak for both myself and Gabriella here. We've both had the pleasure of being up in the air with you,
Yes.
and I've never felt any safer than, I felt as safe as if I was on the ground because you walk us through everything, you explain everything. You're so detail-oriented, and I guess that's kind of important in what it is that you do. So just a hats off to you. I mean, it's important to recognize that.
It's a professional organization from top to bottom. I mean, that's part of our standards here at the Sheriff. Professionalism is right up there. You know, so you see it every day, and we want to be as professional as we can. So it's great to hear you guys say that.
So any listeners out there who may be first time tuning in, which I guess that would be everybody because it's our pilot episode.
Yeah, nice.
If you have a background in flying, if you're a pilot, if you have that experience, military background especially, right? That's
Absolutely. And
come on down and give us a try. Check us out.
Absolutely. And, when I see people out, especially those Vietnam vets and guys like that, I love to talk to you. Those guys are the true legends in the community. You get to hear their stories and what they've done for the country and stuff. So it's always great to hear. Especially when that UH-1 is out there. There's a special bond there.
For sure. And you always carry yourself with such professionalism, and it's always a joy to talk to you. So thank you for being here with us today.
No problem. It's a lot of fun.
I think that's all the time we've got for today, but we'd love to have you back on the show another time.
This would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shane.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll definitely be reaching out to you again soon.
All right.
All right,
guys.
folks, make sure you tune in again for another episode of Patrolling in Paradise, the podcast. We'll keep this thing rolling right along. Thanks so much.